What up, my guys? Welcome to another show, man. A little bit softer intro today, man, but it's still we hopping on the keys, we hopping on the flute, the violin, man. It's NFL talk with Jay Money and the Shark, man. I gotta switch the background here, man. It's always happening after doing so many NBA shows. Shark, how you doing, my guy? Nice hat, my brother.
Thank you. It's good to be back here. Obviously, 4 hours removed from the NBA show. A lot to talk about. NFL Week 9, a lot going on. Jay Money at Circa. I'm still in the same lab. Hat changed, glasses changed. Still a beautiful day. Let's get in there and let's talk about it. There's a lot going on here. This game tonight, this is going to be an interesting one. Joes versus the pros. What's going to happen here?
Yeah, my guy in the chat, man. I was going to buy a t-shirt, lost all my money yesterday on the picks, my guys. That's tough, man. Things are so situational with people, but we still got shirts, man. We still got some cash. Well, I hope you didn't bet it all, my guy. It's all I dig it, man. But yeah, bet accordingly, my guys. It's early in the season. Sorry, you want to say something about it was being early in the season, or you want to just get straight to some NFL, man? It's all business.
Yeah, we can talk about that for a half second. I mean, obviously, I know there's certain people say stuff like that just to get a rise out of us. So we would hope you didn't do that. But, truthfully, when the NBA comes to the back and the center, when we really look back on this season,
right,
I have to say this. It will be June 18th, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the second week out of 35 weeks. So please manage your bankroll. You're not going to become a millionaire overnight. Of course, the initial point in the season is data deficient. We're working our hardest. We're not competing with anybody. We're doing our absolute best. And let's talk some NFL football. We got 11 games here. We got 6 bye weeks, slightly smaller card this week. And it's going to be a nice little chat here, Jay. Let's get in there.
Let's do it, man. First game up, man. We got the World Series here. No, it's the NFL, my guys. You got Philadelphia versus Houston, but it's the Eagles here versus the Texans, my guys. Eagles land a ton of points here on the road, Sharks. Obviously they can do it. The whole thing about the NFL is, are they motivated to? One thing that I noticed, my guys, that the main unmotivated spots are come on the road and out of conference, especially when you have even a bigger game on deck. So I'm not saying that that it's not a lock. I mean, I know a lot of people want to take the Eagles here, but if I had to bet the game, Shark, I would definitely be looking towards the lowly Texans getting plus 2 touchdowns in this one. How are you looking at the game?
Yeah, I agree. This is not an official play, but free play here. And I know, again, speaking of bankroll management, we'll discuss this again. If you have, say you have $1,000 in your account, you don't have to put 100 to 200 on every game. You could take this as a quote official play and put $20 on it. It doesn't have to be a trophy case type of game every single bet for your bankroll. And so, if you want to go official or not, and this is where Jay was saying he's taking his money down a little bit. And this is also what I was saying in football versus baseball. I don't bet as much as basketball, but I'm still going on a 1-unit scale because I want people to know, like, 1 unit means that it's still a play. But if you and I were advising here, like say in the playoffs, you rip a 20K bet, how are you going to say that? 250 unit play versus one? Then theoretically in the relationship, 1 unit play is nothing. So 1 unit has to stand for something, and that's what it is. So if we were going to have a 1 unit play here, we would be taking the Texans. And what you're looking at is Philadelphia on the road outside of the division as a significant favorite. They're 0-2 ATS in the opener. They laid 5.5 points to Detroit. They were up significantly and got backdoored in the fourth quarter. And then later on, Sunday, October 9th at Arizona, same thing. Had a lead, gave it back, didn't cover. 20-17. You go to the other side of this game, Houston is 0-1 at home outside of the division, a 34-24 loss and non-cover to the Chargers. However, that game was very close. The Chargers were up. They gave it back. They got a late touchdown. If we're throwing, again, small play, $20, whatever you want to call it, we would be leaning to the Texans here tonight.
Yeah, and I just want people to understand it as well. Like what some of the main spots that because I used to lose a lot of money in betting in the NFL. I'm talking about I wouldn't look at the deeper analysis and look at the situational standpoint. And now when you really go back and look at your losses, most of them are going to be, especially where the public gets cleaned up as well, looking at a certain game, team versus certain team, but you're not necessarily looking at how the game sets up, seeing if it's a division game or not. You see what I'm saying? So I just feel like just a little nugget here, guys. One of the main situations that you probably want to kind of look deeper into the game or raise your eyebrows is when a heavy favorite, especially public favorite, is laying a lot of points on the road out of division. I feel like out of division, out of conference is really key. Key in that one, my guys. So yeah, I would lean toward the Texans plus the 16, plus the 14. It's an ugly play, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost the game by 7 to 10 points, my guys. Everybody's still happy, all right? Philly gets the win by 3 points, and they're happy. They're, you know what I'm saying? So I don't see a balls to the wall here spot by the Eagles, but obviously the Texans, they struggle offensively, play really good defense here. So they're going to have to play some defense in this one to keep it close with the Eagles. Maybe an under spot there, maybe, my guys, but we'll lean Texans plus the 14 in that one. Sure, let's go over here to the Sunday games here. Early morning Sunday here, 1 o'clock Eastern. We got the Patriots laying 5.5 versus the Indianapolis Colts here. Sorry, Patriots bounced back last week versus the Jets. Now they come back to the house. Do the Colts have anything left, or are they just this kind of season just kind of gone?
This is a tough game. I looked at this. There's a lot of points in this game. You do find a revenge game here for the Patriots, what I think is fairly noteworthy. Last year, the Patriots were on a 7-game winning streak and went to Indianapolis off a bye week and a huge win at Buffalo the previous week. And they did get hammered. And they got hammered early, 20-0 in the first half, I believe, and then came back and did not cover 27-17. Of course, that was Carson Wentz. There was a blocked punt in the first half. The game just got off the chain real quick. But you do get a revenge game here. And I think New England will remember that. And the line is telling you a New England story here. Indianapolis was favored at home -1 last year, now -5.5, almost a touchdown gap. That is a big, big point. Of course, this is Sam Ehlinger's start 2, which is a bit ambiguous. His first road start, obviously last week, did not cover as a home favorite against the Commanders and the beautiful hat I'm wearing. But it's going to be tough. And, I was reading Stephon Gilmore, who, of course, played for the Patriots for a period of time, is over here with the Colts. He was giving him advice and this, and that. But I do think New England catching upward movement is probably the play here. Last year, they were 4-4 through 8 games, which, of course, is their record now. And they did run off a winning streak. I believe that's when they were in the middle and continued to go on a 7-game winning streak last year. So I think this is symptomatic of Bill Belichick football. Of course, it was Tom Brady. It was probably more so Bill Belichick as the source and the energy there. Not a great September football team. They make adjustments better than most. They coach better than most. I think those adjustments will come here. I would lean New England here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the Colts, they're a disaster right now, man. I feel like 2 winnable games the past couple of weeks, and then they do what they do go into. They made a quarterback change. No Matt Ryan, you go in there with Ehlinger, and you still get basically get smoked in that way, man. So even that final score wasn't indicative of how the game went. They should have lost that game by double digits, my guys. So not necessarily. I don't necessarily think Indy is a bye team. You wonder if they will turn it on, but when they start talking about maybe firing the coach and things like that, it's not buy on for me there in Indy. So I'm with you there, Shark. The Patriots, we know with Belichick, he's always going to have his team ready. The coaching staff is really good as well. They've covered 5 out of the 4 of the last 5 as well. Lost their last home game as well in disgusting fashion, 14-33. So they should be looking to bounce back here versus an inferior opponent here. Could not talk you off laying the points with the Patriots in this one, my guys. Let's go over here.
Just one, else? Yeah, one more point on this. If you go through the Patriots calendar, there are significant trends developing. They are 4-0 ATS in their last 4 road games. So for whatever reason, of course, there are quarterbacks in and out here, which is not ideal. But they are 4-0 ATS in the road last 4 games. At home this year, they are 1-2 ATS. But I think those non-covers are very much opponent and situationally driven. Of course, it was the Ravens early on. You had that correctly. The Ravens are not the Colts. And then the game in prime time against the Bears, where ultimately that was the game where Mac Jones was coming back from an injury and Bailey Zappi came in, and there was a lot of different moving parts in that game. I don't think that applies here either. So I think the 1-2 home ATS record is a bit contaminated from a narrative standpoint. I think they should show more efficiency coming up here at home ATS.
Yeah, nah, you make a good point there, man. And this line actually opened up at 6. It's come down. One of the guys in the chat was like, "Hey, it's down to 4.5." And FanDuel, I'm saying 68% of the money. Obviously, only one place. We don't know how true it is, but the money is on the Colts or the underdog. So it could be somewhat of a public underdog here. They're not necessarily trusting the Patriots here, my guys. It's was funny in the chat. Andrew says, "I got a local book deal in Texans plus 16." I just thought that was funny because I got a local book here too, and I'm pretty sure they got at least 15.5 over there. And I just think that speaks even more volumes till a lot of people think it's just Eagles smack city here tonight, especially when those books start giving you extra points over there. So I just thought that was funny in the chat over there, my guy. I kind of like to take advantage of those sometimes, man. But be interested to see what happens. Everybody posting their picks in the chat right now. College football, all type of good stuff, man. So appreciate everybody for that. Yeah, it's a tough game for you. Yeah, Patriots. Only way that I could look in this one. This is a somewhat of a at least a middle tier type of team, right, Shark? Can't call them top tier, but definitely like top 15, top half of the Colts. They're definitely in the bottom half. I mean, they're not really showing me any sense of urgency right now. I do think the coach is really close to being fired, my guys. So yeah, it's Patriots or nothing for me in that spot. They could smack these guys up if they want to. I don't see why they wouldn't want to in this one, Shark. I believe the Colts, they still going with Ellinger as well, right? It didn't matter, Matt Ryan or Ellinger, man.
Yeah, and I think we said this last week, but when Frank Reich removes Matt Ryan from a team that is a very good defense and has a great run game and puts in a rookie, you're kind of throwing in the towel to a certain degree. And I made the comment last week, but it kind of just strikes me as a bit of a self-driven, almost egotistical move by the head coach to save his own ass, where like he knows Matt Ryan's not taking him to the Super Bowl. So then he throws him in there because, I mean, truthfully, I don't think removing Matt Ryan is really the move if they were going to try to go, first, second round of the playoffs. Like, I think this is just more disruption than anything because Matt Ryan had been showing signs too. I mean, they put up 34 points against the Jags at home. The Jags have a solid to above average defense. They had a couple lackluster games early season, but similar to what we were saying with the Patriots, sometimes it just takes a month or 6 weeks for a team to get into their flow, particularly with a quarterback playing for a new team for the first time in his career. Like, talk about a lack of patience. I just didn't like the move at all.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on that, man. Patriots, only way we looking in that one, my guys. Let's get over here to the streets of New York here, man. We got the Jets laying 11.5 points. Is the stadium in New Jersey or what? Shark? Yep. Yeah, so we're going to the streets of Jersey over here, my guys. Got the Jets getting 11.5 points at home versus the Buffalo Bills, right? The Bills continue to mow teams down. I know people are pissed. They laid 10.5 with them or 11 last week and got backdoored in that one. Now they're laying 11.5 versus the up-and-coming Jets team here, Shark. You think that the Bills continue to will they cover this spread or will they kind of just barely win it, go through the most? Can the Jets ball out here? I guess that's the question.
I don't know. It's a good question because, I mean, you saw the game last week. The Jets played against New England. They had a significant lead, and they melted it off in the second half. We had mentioned going back prior, their other divisional home game this year against Miami. I mean, they absolutely cleaned house. They won a game 40-17. And all of these games have the same general dynamic where the Jets have just been hammered by these teams for years. This is the same thing. Buffalo's won the last 4 meetings. And they've won the last 4 meetings by an average of 15.75 points. Just blowout after blowout after blowout. And this line speaks to a blowout. But again, I don't know where Buffalo's motivation really is to continue to blow these teams out. I think the Jets have far more motivation from a generational standpoint to compete here. Mm-hmm. If I'm playing this game, I'm taking the points with the Jets.
That's a good point there, Shari. After being so lackluster for a while, you kind of want to start to bring the Jets back. You want to be part of, the Jets are good now. You see what I'm saying? They definitely have been a lot better than they've been in years past. I don't think they're necessarily that easy fade. Like, it's Sunday morning, you're looking at the card or whatever, and like, oh, okay, it's the Jets. We're just going to fade them. I don't think it's that Jets anymore, my guys. And you say it as well. From a psychological standpoint, if you're the Bills and you're trying to make it to the Super Bowl, there's going to be games where you don't want to go balls to the wall in, and basically, unless if it's a big name game right now, you're not going balls to the wall. You want to get the win and get out of there, mainly get out of there with any major injuries there. So this line opened up at 13. It's come down to 11.5 there, Shark. Maybe the Sharps here hopping on the Jets plus the points here. So it definitely it's not public money moving it down from 13 to 11.5. I can tell you that right now, but who knows, man? It's the NFL. Sharps lose all the time, but I could definitely understand leaning toward the Jets, and that one could all he needs to do is keep it within 7 to 10 points at home in somewhat of an unmotivated spot for the Bills there. Maybe they'd rather turn up versus the Vikings. They a couple of home games coming up, Vikings and Browns over there. But like you said, they've absolutely owned the Jets in years past. It could simply just keep going, man. I don't have a play in this game, my guys. So you got some?
Another point on this, I'm looking at the Bills' schedule here, and I think this is pretty important stuff. If you go through their road games this year, at LA Rams in the opener, blowout win, at Baltimore, push, at Kansas City, cover. What's the common theme there? Los Angeles Super Bowl champs, Baltimore deep playoff team rival, at Kansas City Super Bowl deep playoff rival. Their only divisional road game against Miami was a non-cover. So they played 3 out-of-division games. All of them were representative efforts, 2-0-1 ATS. This is their second divisional game on the road, and they are 0-1 ATS in the division. I think that speaks to a Jets side even further here.
Yeah, that's a good point there. That's a good point, man. Appreciate that as well. We always like those corollary spots, my guys. But and what did he say earlier, man? Land the points here on the road with some of these teams that's like in unmotivated spots, man. That's where you end up seeing the final score and you wondering what the hell is happening. But if you look at it that way before the game, you're not necessarily so surprised. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised if the Jets got it done there, my guy. But let's go over here to the streets of Chicago. I know that this stadium's in Chicago for sure. You got the Bears here getting 4.5 points versus the Dolphins. This is crazy because it's at 5 at some places. Was at 5. It's going down to 4s right now. So I don't know what's going on. It's 1-5 out there, 4.5s, but 4s at other spots. Shark. So it looked like it opened up at 3.5 though for the Dolphins. So it could just be some money coming down on the other side here. You got to look in this game. What you thinking about, my guy?
Well, we're looking at the Bears with significance here, and there's a lot going on here, really. I mean, you have to look at the schedule here for Miami, and it's just a brutal, brutal spot. Let me just pull it up here. I want to discuss it. I misclicked on my link here. But, when you really start to look at Miami's schedule, this is back-to-back games at the NFC North. And you saw this last week. I mean, they were very fortunate to cover that by a hook. You mentioned that Sharps are not necessarily winning in the NFL in recent history. I'm one of them. I started out very well. I've had a couple tough weeks, and it's symptomatic to just tight NFL lines, and sometimes the public side just gets there. And you saw it last week, 31-27, backdoored it in the second half to cover a -3.5 by a hook. But when you really start to look at this is just brutal, brutal stuff. This is their 4th consecutive game outside of the division. Minnesota lost at home, non-cover against Pittsburgh, barely covered against Detroit. Now they got to hang out in the center of the country against a Chicago team that is very representative at home. Chicago's played 4 out of their last 5 games on the road, so they don't really have a big home sample, but they are 2-0 ATS at home on a Sunday. Their only non-cover did not come on a Sunday. And truthfully, when you look at this coming back here, I think that the significant point is the Bears. And I'll have more details on that on Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's a good point there, man. My guy Bobby Productions in the chat saying Miami struggles on the road going up north as well. It's probably a little colder up there as well, man. So as we always say, teams going down to I think it's going to be something interesting when you get to this part of the season, man. Later part, later November and December as well, man. When it starts to get cold, it's the same thing for like early season when teams going down to Miami, right? It's super hot. They use that to their advantage. What are teams in Chicago and things like they're going to do? It's an outside stadium. They're going to use it to their advantage as well, man. So teams coming from the sunny states, they don't necessarily like it up there in Minnesota and Chicago and shit like that when it gets super cold, man. So it's definitely an environmental shift. You made some good points on this one. My guys in the chat are agreeing with you in this one, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Washington. Let's go over here to the streets of DC here. We got the Commanders getting 3 points versus the Minnesota Vikings here, Sharp. The Vikings have been teetering on the laws here for a while now. It's not come. They gave the Cardinals plenty of opportunities to cover that game. And Murray just kept throwing picks and shit. We always say when it's a team teetering up on the loss, we know it's coming. You think it's coming here, my guy. You think Heineke is the guy that's going to bring us to the promised land?
I do. I think this is definitely a brutal, brutal spot for Minnesota. As you mentioned, Minnesota just running scorching hot here. Dub 5, mostly games against non-playoff teams. Let me just pull this up here. I'm getting a little internet lag. But when you look at Washington, I mean, I bought Washington incorrectly early season numerous times. And I think that really, when we look back on it, unfortunate to say, that was Carson Wentz driven. Carson Wentz just gave away a handful of games. And you get Minnesota just in brutal travel. We had suggested this last week when the Giants had gone to London, they'd gone to Florida, they'd been at home, and they went across the country. This is not as bad as the Giants. I had said I thought that was probably the worst travel for any team in the entire league this year over a 4-game window. But when you really look at this, they were in London against New Orleans. They came home in the division against Chicago. Then they went to Florida. Then they came back home out of the division against Arizona. Now they go to Washington. That's all over the world. It's all over the country. It's all different motivational spots. It's not a lot of divisional games. And again, this is something that happens now in the NFL with an additional week, obviously 18 weeks rather than 17. You do get one extra out of division game. And I think that just makes it harder to motivate. And there's going to be more dead zone spots for these teams. And again, you get a team coming here with a 5-game winning streak against Detroit, New Orleans, Chicago, Miami without their quarterback, and Arizona. That is unimpressive stuff. They're incredibly, incredibly overvalued at 6-1. And Washington with Taylor Heineke is really showing an upward movement point. Dub 3, 3-0 ATS last 3. They're actually 2-1 ATS at home outside of the division. I think a reasonable corollary here is you go back to them beating Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Go back a couple weeks. Same division coming on the road here. And final point, the only time Minnesota played at the NFC East this year, it was at Philadelphia, albeit in prime time, but it was a blowout loss. I don't think they travel well to this portion of the country against this division. I think this is definitely a brutal spot. We're going to be on this officially. We're at Washington +3, 1 unit. And again, take that in your own context, please.
Exactly. That's why the unit scale is so important, my guys. 1 unit for your bankroll, my guys. You're not pocket watching though, but yeah, this is a tough game because, like you said, the Timberwolves, the Vikings got the Bills on deck as well at Buffalo, so could possibly be a huge look ahead spot here as well. So personally, I hadn't got there. Washington won 3 straight. I can't talk you off. It's just not some. It's not some that I bet. Obviously, the Viking, it looks super easy to take the Vikings there -3. It's just so crazy. The easy play has been hidden, man. But I could obviously they've been teetering upon a loss as well. On the road, they hadn't necessarily been the greatest as well. And when you look at it, that they got one of the best team in NFL on deck, like a real type of measuring stick type of game to see where they are. Could definitely see them coming in here playing this game out of conferences, out of division, just somewhat of a just huge look ahead spot. So definitely could understand the lean here to the Commanders here. The football team could not talk you off here, Shark. The fact they got Bills on deck is absolutely golden. It just speaks to all your points and then even more. So could definitely be a huge look ahead spot for the Vikings and that one, my guys. But as we always say, take what you like, my guys. You see what I'm saying? Go with your gut. That's what you're gonna sleep better with at night, man. Let's go over here to the streets of Detroit real quick, where we got the Lions getting 3.5 points. What is the team? What? 1-7, 1-6 on the season, man. Yeah, 1-6 for the Lions here, 3-4 against the spread. So this year, they're not even necessarily covering all those spreads they did last year. It's crazy because the Packers have lost now 4 straight games here, Shark. Do you think they get it done here on the road? Can they get the road cover, or you think this is a game where they kind of barely win by 3 or something? I think they had a really good effort versus Buffalo last week. Damn, 3rd straight road game.
Yeah, no, I don't have a hat for the Lions, but I'm looking at the Lions here with significance. As you mentioned, Green Bay, I just think people want to buy Green Bay, and I call it one thing, and it's Sports Center capping. It's because you just watched Aaron Rodgers for 15 plus years, win 1 championship, I believe in 2009, 10, or 11, something like that against Pittsburgh. I was in Miami at that point, summer. Great weekend that was, but 1 title, a lot of coaching ambiguity to a certain degree. Of course, LaFleur and Mike McCarthy holding him back for years, the whole thing. But this team is not very good. And you have to go down their schedule. Okay, this team is 3-5. They have 3 wins. They beat Chicago at home. Chicago is not a good divisional road team at all, and Aaron Rodgers has owned Chicago for the duration of his entire career. They beat the Bucs in week 3, Sunday, September 25th. We thought the Bucs were better than they were at that point in time. The Bucs have looked terrible as well. So then you ask yourself that question, how good of a win was that? I don't know if that was good at all. And a win in overtime against the Patriots in Bailey Zappe's first NFL appearance. That's not a representative effort either. Outright loss in the division on the road early season, a 2-unit Shark special back in the day, Sunday, September 11th. Seems like it was months ago, years ago at this point, 23-7. And then losses to the Giants, the Jets, Washington, and Buffalo. And that Buffalo game, they covered it, but they were uncompetitive. I mean, that was a garbage touchdown. That was what Buffalo does at home. They get way up in the first half, and they just stop playing. So you come in here against Detroit, and you're seeing a nice line. You go back to last year, Green Bay did cover at home on an 11.5, 35-17. Then they went on the road to Detroit, and the line came down significantly. It came down from 11.5 to 4. So obviously line functionality is a little bit different in the NFL, but when you come down in the same season from 11.5 to 4 and you lose outright 37-30, it tells you the books have a good handle on this. And now it moves even further south from 4 to 3.5. Detroit's right on the cusp of a win. I think Detroit could win this game outright. I will be on this on Sunday officially, plus 3.5, 1 unit.
Yeah, and the Lions have lost 5 straight games as well, so you definitely get the motivation. They should have won that game versus the Dolphins. That's my worry with this game. You had a win, and then you snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in that game. So I worry about them kind of being super down on themselves. You really got a chance to win your game, and then you even lose that one. So I worry about them. Most importantly, Shark, I just really feel like the Packers kind of really started to talk, right? Because me personally, I hopped on them plus the 10.5. I feel like it was a nice spot to fade the public versus the Bills in that one, but they end up covering the game. But I feel like they had a really representative effort. Obviously, you could have got blown out by the Bills in that one, but they played a really good game. I mean, the high-flying offense as well still held them to 27 points. I know they got a late touchdown to get to 17, but I think the Packers, they really came into that game like it was a Super Bowl. And they end up losing, obviously, but covered. I just feel like they might be able to take some of that momentum into this one. Now, don't get it twisted, Shark. I didn't bet the game here, but that is my lean here. Obviously, we're just talking some NFL. We can disagree on games. It happens all the time, guys. But I do think that it wouldn't be necessary Aaron Rodgers here, but I do think they're about to turn the corner here, at least for one game. I would lean to the Packers here, minus 3.5. That's just me, though, Shark. Go with your good. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate it. You know, as we said, conversation wins. But, you know, something I didn't even mention in my first take there, if you actually really look at the Lions' home calendar, in my opinion, this is sustainable stuff. Week 1, they covered against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the best team in the conference, okay? Right. Week 2, they won outright. You had it correctly against Washington. The only time they've won a game this season. Come back later, week 4. They lost by 3 points to Seattle. Seattle is leading the NFC West. So again, this is key stuff. When they lost to Philadelphia and they covered, people said, okay, whatever. You know, Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, you know, who knows? This is the best team in the conference. Seattle, they said, whatever, Seattle, you know, we got Geno Smith, whatever. This is the leader in the NFC West. And then, of course, last week played Miami, who's very competitive in, of course, the AFC, right down to the wire against the spread. So in all 4 of their home games, AFC, out of conference, in the division, whatever, doesn't matter. They are a very good home team. And I think that obviously the Packers should probably improve a little bit, but I think the core sustainable point here actually is how good Detroit is at home.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, and that's what they do too. I mean, I would be surprised if they kept it within 3 points, like lose on a field goal or something. It's definitely always on the number. Me personally, I worry about their psychological. You finally could have got a win, at least try to turn your season around. Then you lost that one. It's just it's tough to get up for the next game after having a win and then it gets snatched from you. But it is third straight road game for the Packers here, Sharks. So they're definitely working into your favor there. It's always tough going on 3 straight road games. Just me personally, if I'm betting this game, I am going with the Packers there, my guys, but not laying the 3.5 on the road. I wish you the best of luck on your play, Shark.
One more point here. One more.
Okay. Ringer spot here.
You don't mind. Okay, so we talk about this scatter plot of travel across the world for the
Right.
Giants, and then of course the Vikings as well. I mean, listen to how brutal this is for the Packers. Week 5, London. Week
Mhm.
6, Green Bay. Week 7 at Washington. Week 8 at Buffalo. Detroit. So you got
Mhm.
London, Green Bay, New York, Washington, Buffalo, Detroit. That is horrible travel. Horrible. I
Yeah.
mean, we're all over the place. This is, I mean, Detroit, I don't know. I'm all over Detroit. We're making it a 1,000-unit banger.
Yeah, I was gonna say real ringer spot here, man. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't talk you off. I mean, maybe I could, but I'm not an NFL expert, my guy. So I always say that, man. Go with your fucking gut. Shark gave you plenty of points on this shit. He's on the Lions here plus a 3.5. It's just me personally. What my gut tells me that it's Packers minus 3.5, or I'm staying off the game, man. But I can't tell you what my gut did do. He told me to take the Chargers there minus the 3. I'm all over this shit. It's 1 unit play for me, but give me the Chargers in this one coming off a bye week. We know that the Falcons were way too high for too long, in my opinion. Now they're kind of the later in the season is starting to finally catch up with them here, in my opinion, as well. I think they need a bye week in the worst way. They're coming here 6-2 against the spread, really banged up as well. But I feel like the Chargers here, this is a spot for them to get back right. Bears lost at the house versus the Seahawks. They're 37-23, right? Then you go into the bye week pissed off. You got a couple of weeks to think about this, and that's even more reason why I'm not worried about them traveling on the East Coast. You got plenty of time to get acclimated over there. Fly out early. I like the Chargers in this one to win in a big way. I think they take the Falcons to smack city in this one. Also, they're coming off one last point on this one. They're coming off an overtime game versus a division opponent. Huge win, right? And then they got them again sandwich spot, and to make it even better, it's a Thursday night game. So you get a sandwich spot in between Carolina. Then you get the Thursday night game as well, where you have to travel to Carolina as well. So somewhat of a look ahead spot, sandwich spot, letdown spot, all that shit. Give me the Chargers here. minus 3. Top play of the week, my guy. What you liking, Shark?
Yeah,
Could you fucking talk me off? Sorry.
No, you can. Kurt, please get hype. I like it. It's NFL. It's NFL Thirsty Thursday, Week 9. The Shark and Jay Money. The chat live. We got. I don't know how many people are in here. I don't look at that stuff, but we appreciate you tracking live with us here. Of course, on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. I wouldn't disagree, and I've been saying this for weeks. But the Falcons at 6-0 ATS are just a sustained fade. And we were going back in the Falcons calendar, and people wanted to fade them in week 4, 5, whatever it was. And I actually said this specifically on record. You're going to want to fade them starting when they play the Bengals, then the Panthers, then the Chargers. And what happened? I haven't been crushing it, but sometimes we talk about this all the time. Sometimes the hardest thing in NFL football is coming up with a final card where your ideas can be very clean and pure. And that was absolutely correct. And I think it does continue here. And as you mentioned, the Chargers come in here off really just a pathetic loss in week 7, Sunday, October 23rd, to the Seattle Seahawks at home. And that has been what seems to be their kryptonite this year. Home games outside of the division. They're 0-2 straight up. They're 0-2 ATS, both blowout losses versus Seattle 37-23 versus Jacksonville 38-10. And you go on the road, it's been quite the opposite with road games out of the division. And I think a very good corollary here is the game at Houston. It was coming off an out-of-division home blowout loss to Jacksonville. They went on the road. It was their first road game in a 2-game road back-to-back sequence, which this is. They do play next week at San Francisco, and they came out and they hammered Houston. They did give it back a little late, but they did push late enough to win and cover 34-24. I think you're onto something very strong here with the Chargers.
Yeah, I like it, bro. As the ambulance is heading to get the Falcons right now, they're getting their wings clipped in this one, my guys. But yeah, in all honesty, like I say, I think the fact that game went to overtime as well was all the more worse. It just makes the case even better here, my guys. So you want to fade the Falcons in this particular spot? Well, I do, man. So I'm on the Chargers here minus the 3. I know that Keenan Allen's he's not going to be in here. He was expected to possibly be in, so you actually get a little better. It came down from 3.5 to 3, or the 3s were juiced, but now it's getting 3s at minus 110 here, my guys. I'm liking the Chargers in this one. I was trying to see exactly how many plays they were on the field for last week, but it doesn't really matter, man. Sandwich spot, look ahead spot here. You're gonna fade them off that overtime win, big win, right? But yeah, this is a letdown spot for me. Give me the Chargers minus the 3. That's my top spot of the week, guys. I may not bet any other game. I'm trying to go 1-0, and it's a win for me. And that's really when I have my strongest spots as well. 3 plays, 5 plays. My one play, one top spot on the board. I got to get back to what I do, man. Chargers -3, top play of the week. Let's go over here to the streets of Cincy real quick. We got the Bengals laying 7.5 versus those Panthers that we were just talking about. Obviously, they're going to have a Thursday night football game versus I guess you can kind of say they're somewhat of a sandwich spot as well with division games, right, Shark? So you got the Bengals here. They're laying 7.5, though. That's 7 and a hook. But do you think the Bengals going to clean them up here, or do Carolina continue to show their upward movement here?
This is a tough game. I mean, this might be the worst game to cap on the 1 o'clock slate. There's just a lot going on here. Carolina's in an unknown environment. Of course, 2-0 ATS last 2, both in the division. Obviously, when the coach gets moved and the whole thing, they move, Robbie Anderson off the roster. There's a lot of turmoil, the quarterback situation, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. When you come out off of that and you do get a jolt, and we talked about this last week when we said we thought they would cover against the Falcons. This team is going to compete because, again, just as much as the owner and the GM want to tank, the players and the coach don't want to tank. They have to prove something every single week. Right. But when you leave it all on the table 2 weeks in a row against Tom Brady and the Bucs and an outright win, and then an overtime game and a cover, but a loss against the Falcons, this is a dead zone spot. This is a fatigue spot. And if you go to Cincinnati home outside of the division, they are 2-0 ATS. They did cover against Miami, the game that Tua got hurt with the concussion. Mm-hmm. And they also covered the game that we had correctly 2 weeks ago, which I think might be more applicable here to when they covered against the Falcons, which is the same division traveling up to Cincinnati. Free play here, I would lay it with Cincinnati. -7 was the spot. Now it's at 7.5. Of course, 7.5 is far less attractive as a number, but I think this is definitely a Cincinnati spot more so than it's a continued buy on the Panthers here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. And maybe the Panthers get some revenge. Obviously got a huge revenge spot within the division. If they do want to get back or do anything this year, that would be the game that they're really going to need the next game up versus Atlanta, 4 days away on Thursday Night Football. So possibly look ahead from both games. So probably get like a double play out of this one. I'm right there with you. I lean Cincy as well. I almost never lay 7.5 in football just because I don't know. I just hate that hook right there. I'd lay 3.5 before I lay 7.5, my guys. But could be a Smack City spot here, my guys. Obviously, the Bengals sitting at 4-4. This team went to the Super Bowl last year. We know they are still without Chase. But maybe they can get it done versus this Panthers defense without them. Not laying a 7.5, but I would probably lean that way, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Jacksonville. We got the Jaguars getting 1.5 points at the house. Both of these teams have been absolutely lackluster right now, Shark. Somebody has to break the winning streak. I know, man, no one wants to take the Raiders here. Nobody wants to take them, but I can tell you this. If I had a second top play on the board, the Raiders are pretty close, guys. I don't care who the hell doesn't like it. No one likes this play, but nobody's going to be betting this game really, Sharp, to be honest with you, because nobody wants to bet the Jags right now either. But I do think there is some substance to fading the teams coming off that London trip. The Jags, I'm sure they're used to coming off the London trip, Sharp, but they every single year, but prior to this year, they get a bye week afterwards. Not this year. Both teams just got smacked up. What are we doing in this one?
It's a tough game. As you mentioned, both teams should improve. Las Vegas has been terrible on these Eastern games at early start times. But I do think there's an environmental shift. We had talked about this, and we went and researched it a little bit. Mm-hmm. They did stay over in Florida this week. And I think guys were saying good things that, they needed a little bit of like 1/3 of the season in like a second training camp. They're all in a hotel. Mm-hmm. They're having friends, getting to know each other a little bit, which actually strikes me as kind of crazy that they don't have camaraderie coming out of training camp. That blows my mind, but so be it. I guess they don't. But so this is helping them get into a better flow together as a 53-man unit and the coaches and whatever. And now this is their third early start time. Of course, 2 non-covers. Both games they came out just horribly in the first half, which I do think is symptomatic of it being 10 a.m. on their body time at Tennessee and last week against New Orleans. Now you come into Jacksonville. You've been here, so it's actually more normalized on your body time. And it should improve. My only hesitation, again, is the fact that Jacksonville's on an L5, and Jacksonville's lost 5 straight games by 1 possession. both teams should improve here. I think there's definitely a bit of a coin flip environment. I wouldn't disagree with the Vegas improvement point, but I do think Jacksonville is also right there to improve. So tough play,
Yeah.
for me, but I don't disagree with the take.
Yeah, only thing I worry about Jacksonville is if they kind of, I don't even know if I would say kind of shot their low. It makes sense, guys. Hopefully nobody's kids are watching. They don't know what low we're talking about, but yeah, I mean, they came out smoking hot, and then I feel like this is when it flipped. When they were up 14-0 versus Philly, and that's when things kind of flipped for the Jags. Maybe they start to think they were too good or something. They went on to get smoked, and they lost 29-21. They scored a late touchdown. Really could have lost. They could have lost 29-14 in that game, but that's when it flipped. Next game, you play the Texans at the house. You don't score a single touchdown, right? That should never happen in there. When we know that the Texans aren't great offensively, they're a really good defensive team as well. So, but still, maybe let down. Then you go versus Indy. You're winning that game. What happens? You lose it late in a few late possessions in that one. You basically just melt in the game after being up in the first half. Next game versus the Giants. They were up. They had to win. Once again, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Lost their one basically last possession. Same thing for Denver. So this team basically, like, they can get up. I just feel like if you like Jacksonville, maybe first half. One thing I can tell you, every team that's come off the London game, they lose the fourth quarter 8 straight times. It's 8-0, and their defense gives up a ton of points as well. They always get outscored in the fourth quarter. So the way I'm looking at this one, Jags defense, it's been playing somewhat well, but this is a spot where they could really run out of gas, only having a week coming off that London trip with no bye week. The defense should be running on fumes here, especially in the second half when it gets to the fourth quarter. So, and I think that bodes even well with the Raiders stand on the East Coast. You just come out getting shut out 24-0. See what I'm saying? Top 2 receivers had one catch a piece, one of them for 6 yards, other for 7 yards. We know that Devontae Adams was somewhat sick, but I see like a zigzag with them. They lose one, win one. Got smoked the last week. Got like a mini training camp. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders bust out offensively here. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it. You can wait and take them second half team total over, which I think that's going to hit. You can take them just for full game team total over before the game even starts as well. I think both of those hit, and it kind of takes out the element of the kind of the coin toss of who's going to win the toss of who's going to win the game, right, Shark? You just basically go with a strict fade of the Jags defense, and we know it's going to run out of gas here in the fourth quarter, and the Vegas team total should be somewhere around 24, right, with this being a pick'em type of game. So I'd be looking at Raiders team total over and possibly second half on the spread, second half team total over. Wouldn't talk you out of Raiders -1.5 as well. I know they got smoked last week. You could put a little bit more on it on the Saints being in an absolute must-win situation. Their defense just shut them out. But I do know that Carr is a little banged up as well, Char. Did you read that? The Carr, they were saying that his back injury may be a little bit worse. You see what I'm saying?
I didn't read that. But I do agree with you. I think there are going to be more points in this game. But I also think there might be an environmental shift where they come out better in the first half here. Because if they really go into the psychology of these 2 losses at the East Coast times here, they have to be smart enough to know, like, we come out horribly and we can't get down 20 points in this game.
Simple.
So I do think you might, as much as it might sound crazy because they've looked so horribly, that's that zigzag. And it's also the psychological, flip-flop effect where they acknowledge it and then they change it. I think they might come out in the first half well here, to be perfectly honest. So I don't know.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, it's Raiders the only way I'm looking at this one. I think their team totals should hit in this one. I don't know, man. This might be a trifecta team total spot for the Raiders here. It's like the Jags defense may not come in here at 100%. The full game total could go over, but I think the fact that the Raiders got blanked last week, they're going to want to come out here and put up some points here early, Shark. So I always say if they come out there and get up 14-0 in their first quarter, score 14 points, no matter if it's 14-0, that full game trifecta spot is going to cash for the team total for the Raiders. I believe they just have to get to 28. I could see them getting there, man. I just lean trifecta spot for the Raiders on the team total. Lean Raiders full game as well. Let's go over here to the streets of Arizona here, Shark. We got the Cardinals laying 2.5 at the house versus Seattle Seahawks, my guy. What we doing here? Can the Cardinals get some revenge? Fuck, man, this fucking team. Oh, I can't stand Murray right now, Shark.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not officially on this just yet, but I am looking at Arizona here with significance. And it's weird. I was looking at their home environment. This team kind of reminds me of the Atlanta Hawks, where the Atlanta Hawks just have young players. They have egotistical players. They have players that just randomly don't give effort. And then they have just natural inconsistencies because they play a highly variant style of ball.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually start to look at what they've done at home. It's really bizarre stuff. So Arizona now is 2-0 in their last 2 home games against the spread. Prior to that, they were 0-7 for the previous 7 against the spread. And before that, they were 3-0. So just think about the clustered effect. They're 3-0 home ATS. They're good. Then all of a sudden they don't cover 7 in a row. They forget how to play. Now they're 2-0, so they're coming back up. And what does that remind me of? It reminds me of the Atlanta Hawks last year. The Atlanta Hawks went through a big dip in the middle of the season where they didn't cover a basketball game at home for like 2 months.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they became a juggernaut out of nowhere later in the year. This is, I'm just speaking off the top of my head, but the Arizona Cardinals are the Atlanta Hawks. And what you're seeing here is Arizona now catching their wind. So it's theoretically, now they're feeling better. Now they got 2 in a row. Now they're a home team. And you know what was also a key point? During that period of time when they couldn't cover a home game, they were a great road team. And last year when the Hawks couldn't win at home, what were they? They were a great road team. It's the same freaking team, I swear to God. But anyway, so that on that point, Arizona is now a home team, so this would suggest it. Also, going back through the last couple matchups against Seattle, this is a 2x revenge game. Seattle has won the last 2 matchups. And a key point here, there's no line transparency whatsoever. The favorite is 0-3 ATS in the last 3 matchups. Theoretically, the favorite should get better here. And if you go to the Seattle side of this game, it is definitely a fade. Seattle is 3-0 their last 3 straight up at ATS, and Seattle is 2-1 on the road ATS outside of the division. Their only road game inside of the division was week 2 at San Francisco. It was probably their worst performance of the whole year, 27-7 San Francisco. I think Arizona gets there. I think Arizona could get there with a little emphasis this week.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. Yeah, revenge spot as well. They lost versus Seattle earlier this year, man. They just fucker Kyler Murray. But you make some good points there. I like you breaking it down with how it's supposed to shift when they're playing really well on the road. Then when they start losing on the road, then it's gonna come back at the house. We know that they got Hopkins back right as well. So they've lost 2 straight to Seattle, lost earlier this year as well, 19-9. The fact that they come in here after that loss as well, and then come in here laying points again. It looks easy to take Seattle. Look like to the right side. It won 3 straight, covered 3 straight. This is the way I look at this game. This is a must-win J spot, in my opinion. If you're the Cards, you're trying to do something this year, this is an absolute must-win spot within the division here. You have to win this game. It's not saying that they are, but we're just saying, looking at the mental from the Cardinals, you got to come out here with the mentality, with some sense of urgency, saying we absolutely have to win this game versus the division opponent that we already lost to earlier this year and should have won that game. That was a state when the Seahawks defense was absolutely horrible, and these folks only got 3 field goals. They couldn't even score a touchdown. So you got to come out here and ball out. But like I said, there was pre-Hopkins being back as well, Shark. So they could be the huge boost that they need. Obviously, he's the favorite receiver over there. I'd like to take the Cardinals in this one, -2, -2.5, Shark. We got 2 more games real quick. Let's try to run through them here real quick in the next 13 minutes, Shark. We got the Bucs. Going over here to the streets of Tampa Bay here. Got the lackluster Bucs. Tom Brady, is he the GOAT? Not looking like it right now. Guy shouldn't have came back, Shark, to be honest with you, man. He's tarnishing his legacy, as I say, those guys over there at the Lakers, but might be able to get it done in this one. The Rams look broken this year. Their offense is not there. It's not that they're really complacent off of the championship run. They just lost a ton of offensive pieces over there. So this is a game, in theory, Bucs could be able to win with their defense. But do I want to trust Tom Brady and the offense to score anything? Not necessarily. I do think that it's going to turn at one point when you get a team that's been lackluster for so while. People start to bet against them, thinking they're a fade. That's when they come and take your money. Would actually lean towards the Bucs in this spot, Shark, but it's not something I'm betting.
Yeah, this is going to be tough to figure out from one standpoint. This is the first road game for the Rams this year outside of the division. They only have 2 road games. They had a game in week 3 at Arizona, and they had a game week 4 at San Francisco. Other than that, they've had a lot of home games. They've had 5 home games and 2 road games. And again, the only 2 road games were in the division. So first one outside of the division, it is a different environment. And you do get a lot of motivation here for the Bucs. The Bucs did lose in the playoffs last year, 30-27 to the Rams in the divisional round. Of course, that was a home game in Tampa Bay. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, big plays down the stretch to get the Rams there. The Bucs also lost in the regular season last year, 34-24 to the Rams. So you get a 2x revenge game. You get a lot of motivation. And again, you do get just the unknown of the Rams. When I see an unknown like that, that is not so much a buy or a sell for me. That usually leans to a stay away from it because anything could happen. We have no tabulation of data in that environment. Of course, the Bucs have the motivation. As you mentioned, they don't look very impressive. I don't know what to make of them. This game is going to be a tough game for me.
They're 0-6 against the spread last 6, my guys. I really believe that Tom Brady came back just to lose a lot of people money, my guys. But we'll see what happens. That game versus the Ravens, they did at least show something, right? They came out and scored, I believe, a touchdown in their first couple possessions. So they at least showed some type of upward movement versus a great defense there. I remember we leaned that game and it didn't get there, but it doesn't mean that the Bucs were getting a little better in that one. So would like to lean toward the Bucs. The Rams just came off a bye week and still only put up 14 points versus a team that owns them. I feel like if the Rams had won that game, maybe they could possibly turn it around this season, but lost 2 straight to San Fran this year. I think they could lose this game as well, man. The way that what I saw from the Bucs, if they play the way that they did versus the Ravens, which they should after because they lost that game, right? So I'm saying if they play that way, they'll definitely cover this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won it by 2 touchdowns. This Rams offense is literally, it's not clicking right now, and they're going cross country as well, man. So I know it's a little later start time, but not necessarily easy travel spot over there. Last game up, we're going to Sunday Night Football here. We're going to the streets of Kansas City here. Sorry, we got the Chiefs laying 12.5 points versus the Tennessee Titans here, my guy. The Titans obviously have been hot. Do you think that it runs out here? Can Kansas City put it on them, my guy? Titans are getting lucky as fuck, in my opinion.
I don't know what to make of this game because, of course, you got Malik Willis coming in here in start 2. A divisional win last week. As you mentioned, they've been running super hot. This is where you just get into a tough environment, though, on these inflated lines at 12.5. Because, again, the motivation is not always there for these teams to just continue to throttle them. And, it's kind of unfortunate because I know people are going to want to put a bet on this. It's, of course, a Sunday night game, 8:20 p.m. here on Sunday night. But I think this game is really hard to figure out. And I've said this numerous times with college football as well. But when you see a big spread close to 2 touchdowns and you also see a total very low at 45.5, they're telling you just a really tight story in the game, that there's not going to be a lot of points. Tennessee probably won't score a lot, and KC is probably going to be right around it. I mean, if you look at this game, you probably would lean Kansas City and the under. But again, I think it's going to be right there. You saw this last week in the Sunday night game between the Bills and the Packers. That game was a perfect example of where you have basically a dead out tight spread, and you also have a total that's going to be right on the number. I mean, both sides of that backdoored. The Green Bay side backdoored and also the under backdoored there. And it was just like really, really tight window stuff. I think this is going to be the same thing. I think you're going to be one possession versus the total and the spread here. It's going to be tough stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a good point there. Yeah, it's a tough game for me. My guy in the chat, Vincent, saying Chiefs first half. He's saying book it. So maybe he got some inside info or something there. But he has a good point there. Really, when you look at it, why would you want to lay full game this inflated price when you could just go with the Chiefs early here, going up against a rookie quarterback on the road here, right? Second straight road game. I mean, the Texans aren't bad, but this Chiefs defense might have a game plan that could really bottle Willis up, right? So they're used to running type quarterbacks because they have Mahomes. They're coming off a bye week as well. No real look ahead spot with having Jacksonville on deck. I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like the Titans continue to get lucky. Even Tannehill's out now. I mean, you beat the Texans over there, but this isn't the same beast that you're going up against. Back-to-back road games going up against a rested Chiefs squad that can score with the best of them. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs were up 7. What is their first half spread? It should be somewhere around 6.5, 7, right? With the full game being. Let me just take a look real quick. Just talking some shit out here. I lean first half. Yeah, 6.5 at some spots, 7 at others. You get first half 6.5 for the Chiefs there. Rested team coming in there. You know they're going to have a nice game plan here, Shark. The only thing you worry about is them like just not being motivated. But coming off a bye week, I don't know, man. I'd look at Chiefs in the first half. I wouldn't even mess with the full game. Willis might look a little better, figure some things out in the second half, Shark. But in the first half, I really think it's going to be tough for him going on the road here versus this top-tier Chiefs team. What you think about the Chiefs' first half here?
I think it's hard to figure out because if you go through their schedule, the last 3 times they came off of what we talked about was a consistent trend with them, which is blowing out an NFC opponent. You got to go back. Week 1, they blew out Arizona. They came back against Los Angeles, the Chargers. Let's see what they did there. I'm just going to go through it. They did not cover the first half there. That was a short week, though, so you can't really cross-reference. Then you go Tampa Bay road blowout, come home Monday Night Football against Las Vegas. They lost the first half there as well. But again, here's the problem with NFL football. We don't have a lot of games. Both of those games were primetime games, Thursday Night Football and Monday Night Football. And both of those games were inside of the division, being the key point. Now you get a reversal from the standpoint it's outside of the division. Of course, it is another primetime game and a backup quarterback. I mean, Jay, this is why the NFL is so hard to cap. If this was NBA basketball, we'd be 45 games in and we'd have so many different spots to reference against. It's just tough stuff. I wouldn't disagree with you, but again, it's just there's not a lot of information on this.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are actually going to take this game serious. They've lost 5 out of the last 6 times versus the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have covered 5 of those last 6 as well. They lost the most recent game 27-3. They got smoked in that one. See what I'm saying? So I think the Chiefs might actually take this game serious. They're rested. We know both teams are 5-2. Sorry, this is the main reason why I think the Chiefs might take this game serious, because when you look at the Titans, okay, they got the same record. So it's really like a measure stick type of game. You can't look past this game when they've been playing so well and won 5 straight. And I mean, obviously they'll probably care about covering 5 straight, but I'm just saying the Titans have won 5 straight and look good every single week. I think this could be the bottom out spot without their starting quarterback versus a team that they've owned in years past, but we see a different look in Mahomes' eyes this year. They're trying to get back to that Super Bowl level type of team here. Off the bye week, I think the Chiefs early here is decided. I wouldn't be surprised if they cover a full game as well, but I think that first half, you get it at 6.5. I really think that's a sharp look. You sell out versus the run. Make sure Henry doesn't beat you and make sure Willis doesn't beat you with his legs. Run like a cover 2 over there. I think the Chiefs can come up with a scheme here defensively to keep these Titans at bay, and I definitely think they have the offense to get it done. This is where the Titans get smacked up, in my opinion. I might add that Chiefs first half minus 6.5, my guys. I really think that's a nice look in that one, my guys. Let's get some cash, but let's get out of here, man. Let's try to cut this show less than an hour, man, for the first time ever in NFL show. Let's talk about some shirts real quick, man. Smack City, Jay and Shark shirts, us against the bookies. Let's get some cash as well, man. $10 off. You can use promo code WIN10. That gets you the Jay and Shark shirt. Shark, show them the shirt, man. $15, man. And you also get a free pair of glasses as well. Jay and Shark, we like cash quick and fast. Go get a shirt. $15, man. Before these things run out, still have us against the bookies. Let's get some cash. Smack City, all those shirts as well. Now let's get to some free NFL picks here, Shark. What you liking on tonight's card, my brother?
Tonight's card, we are leaning the Texans, as we mentioned.
Sorry, Shark. I'm used to the NBA. What you like on week 9 NFL, my brother?
Well, you don't want to put 10 grand on the Texans tonight? Let it rock. Well, we'll stay with that course. So, yes, we do lean the Texans tonight. Of course, that is not the Texans to win the football game. That is purely a fate of Philadelphia, who is 0-2 against the spread on the road outside of the division. And of course, the back door is wide open in these games. Once you get a spread over 10 points in the NFL, you're not even really capping the game anymore. You're literally just capping like a coin flip back door almost. It's crazy stuff. I would lean the Texans there if we had to, and we're going through the board. Top looks will drop on Sunday morning, but buy hat very much in speculative spaces here. And we're looking at the Detroit Lions with significance. We're looking at the Chargers with significance. We are looking at the Patriots perhaps, and we are looking at the Cardinals at 4 o'clock to really continue that upward movement as a home team now and no longer a road team. I don't know if I missed one. Oh, also the Chicago Bears. Bears as well. Very good spot fading Miami in a road back-to-back sequence still out there in the Midwest. Top stuff will be on there on Sunday morning. Jay Money, a pleasure. Approaching an hour. Second show of the day. The sun's shining down, 4 o'clock Eastern. Pleasure is ours to you guys in the chat. We appreciate you guys immensely. Close them out and let's dominate.
Yeah, man, let's get to it, man. This is my 5th show of the day, my guys. Let's get up out of here, man. coming in on the hour. Like I say, one official play for me. I'll give you the other looks as well that I'm really looking at. But Chargers -3 is my top play of the week. Probably only have one official top play, but other looks that I'm looking at that I'm pretty close to taking. In all honesty, I think the Raiders. There's some substance there coming off 24-0. They got their quality check. They did stay over there on the East Coast, so some of it like another little mini camp. I think this team will come out ready. The Jags coming off the London game. I feel like their defense will really falter in the second half. That's what teams have done. Coming off the London game, when it gets to that fourth quarter, the defense is absolutely gas. You don't have that bye week to come back from overseas, right? To get back acclimated to the US. So leaning Raiders there, leaning Raiders full game, leaning Raiders trifecta spot on the team total. First quarter, first half, full game. Take a look at those team totals. I'll tweet it out if I get there, but that's what I'm looking at in that game. The leaning the Cardinals as well, man. Revenge spot obviously is trusting Murray, but I still lean that way, man. It's an ugly game, but top spot on the board for me, Chargers to -3. I'm also leaning KC first half -6.5 as well, my guys. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate your time, my guys. Let's get this cash. It's us against the bookies, my guys. We here every single day. Let's cash. We out of here.